Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. Now most of you think that I'm only working on cars and restoring houses, but the garden, well, that's something else I need to do every so often. Now you all know by now that the farm is very old, so the bushes have grown very big. The farm has had these bushes for decades, and as such they really grow wild, and you're going to need some specific tools to cut the hedges and keep them under control. And that is why I like some old machinery like my David Brown. So we're going to bring out some of the tools and start working the different bushes, hedges and shrubs. I do like my electrical hedge trimmer, and here I'm just preparing it, having some spray on it so to prevent the knives seizing up, because some of the hedges are creating some very sticky products that can keep the blades moving more tough. You can see this Texas hedge is very big. In fact, it's over 4 meters high. But with the electrical hedge trimmer, this is no difficult job to do. It's a lot of work. But the big benefits of the electrical hedge trimmer is that it's a battery pack based trimmer. It will last 12 hours. Although I have to say mine is now down to 67% of capacity on the battery. But still, it allows me to work for 6-7 hours in a row, which is more than enough. And it cuts real well and real smooth. The weight is lightweight, and I don't have the issues with smoke and noise, so my neighbors don't get offended. Well, I don't really have neighbors. And then it was time to get the forklift out. And as always, this thing didn't start. I should have given it a lot more tender loving care when I bought it 25 years ago. This is an old army forklift. So the battery was flat, and I even broke the connectors, so I had to put up a new connector and another battery. And after that, it was running very smoothly, as always, as you will see further down. So with the forklift, I can now get to the different stages of height, and I'm just using a pallet to stand on. It takes a little bit of your balance, but after a while you get really used to it. On this height it's not too bad, but once you're at the top, this is actually then 4 meters high, it becomes a little bit more, I wouldn't say scary, but a little bit more flexible, I would say. It moves around a little bit, not a lot because the forklift has a bit of play on it. And here we go. The mast of the forklift is now at about 4 meters high, and then you can actually compare it with the ladder that's next to it. And it really helps me to cut the top of the taxes. The problem with cutting the top of the taxes is that you need to get it in the right form. And as I'm so close by, it's very hard to judge if I'm cutting it right or not. And hopefully this time I'm cutting it right. But then again, this is not the showcase taxes anyway, but I try to do my best. Maybe if you guys know of some methods to make this better, let me know. And you can see that the forklift, once it got the fresh battery, it starts at one crank. The engine is very good. It's a Mercedes engine from a 180, I believe. Forklift is an ex-Army forklift, which I acquired about 25 years ago, and even then it was already old. I think it goes back to 1961. And here you have a closer look of the pallet I'm standing on. It's a very small pallet, about 1 meter by 1 meter. But it allows me to get all the way to the top. It's a lot of crawling on ladders and bending over and stretching, so although I'm 65, I still feel pretty comfortable with this, and hopefully it will stay like this for a couple more years. So here you see the top of the taxes getting formed, and it's not perfect, but I think it's getting there. So number one is done, but we got a lot more to do. One of the other shrubs or trees was suffering from a storm a few weeks ago, and one of the branches snapped, as you can see, but it's still hanging there, so I had to cut it off. And then it was time to bring out the trimmy, and the trimmy is a hydraulic hedge trimmer, which is a new attachment that I have since a couple of years, which is attached to my David Brown, the 990 Select-Matic. And you might have seen the restoration videos of this tractor. You know, like I said, I like old machinery. I like to restore it, and then I like to actually use it. I'm not the kind of guy that puts it aside and in a showroom. No, for me, these tools have to work. That's where they were made for. So this is another big bush, and I can trim the sides, but I won't be able to trim the top, and I won't be able to trim the top all the way down, just because it's too big. That's why I'm going to need the trimming. So I don't really worry too much about the greens and the parts that fall off. If there is grass, I just let it fall, and I don't clean that up like most people would do. I'm just gonna blow it away and then use my lawnmower with a mulching blade to get over it. And that pulverizes all these chips and greens, and they go back to nature. It works just perfectly like that. There's no need to make it more complicated. Now I understand if you live in a house and you have a small garden, that's a different story. So here you see me using the trimmy with the extended arm to cut these bushes because I can't get there otherwise. That's almost impossible. You can't get in the bushes because you're going to get scraped all over. But with the trimmy, I can actually reach all over the bush, all the way to the end, which makes it very handy. And this will be almost the last one today. I'm going to trim, and again, it's the same story. I'm using the forklift, the ladder, and I'm starting from the bottom and then start cutting it on the top. In fact, on this one, I even got onto the roof of the barn to get going. And finally, I'm cutting some branches off a tree which is in the way, which is obscuring the growth of another tree, and for that, I'm actually using my electrical snappers. They are connected to the same battery as the hedge trimmer. I had this since many moons, and it's still working just fine. Yeah, you need the right tools for the right job, I always say. And if you have a big garden, this is the kind of stuff you're going to need. If you have a small garden, you get away with smaller things, of course. And then finally, yes, we do have to shuffle up some of that stuff as well, where we have no grass, where I cannot mulch it. So thank you for viewing, and I'll see you in my next video. And if you have comments, please, by all means. Thank you.